Good evening. This is Gloria Taylor Brown, and this is the 24th edition of Gathering of Priestesses. We want to welcome everyone who's coming in. We've got quite a few people who've signed up tonight. We had just a little bit of technical difficulty, but that's kind of par for the course. Just want to let you know that we have with us Nicki Scully and Normandi Ellis, and we also have Raven on, and of course Raven's going to hang with us tonight, aren't you?
Sure.
Nothing like telling her she's going to do that. So
we like hanging with Ravenwood.
Yeah. So anyway, Nicki Scully and Normandi Ellis are two of my most favorite people on the planet. I have been studying with Nicki Scully since 1985, which may be longer than some of you have been alive. So we first started going to classes way up in Seattle, and I found her through the New Times. Thank you, Krista Gibson, and went to her class, and she kept talking about this strange group that she was involved with. I had no idea what she was talking about. So anyway, something called the Grateful Dead, and I had never heard of them. I didn't know who they were. So anyway, but she seemed to think it was important. So anyway, I figured, well, you know, if she's into Egyptian things, obviously she's into the dead. So we just kind of hung out, and we started doing classes together, and I started promoting Nicki. And since that time, we've been to Egypt together 12 times. I've helped her write one of her books. I went up and helped her organize it. I've helped her do classes. She has been, I guess you would say she's been my prime. Normandi Ellis is, without a doubt, the most beautiful, the most brilliant, the most incredible woman who writes like a dream on this planet. If you have not read everything that Normandi Ellis has ever written, you are missing it. And I don't mean just her Awakening Osiris. I don't mean just her books, Feast of Light. I am saying that you must read her Sorrowful Mysteries. You must read her poetry. And I recommend that you do it with a large box of Kleenex beside you. My first experience with it was Sorrowful Mysteries, which I read on the train going home from Eugene, and I was crying so hard. The train conductor came over and wanted to know if somebody had died. And I said, no, it's just so beautiful. I can't stand it. And he said, maybe you better stand it when you get home. So I want to thank everybody for getting here, and I'm basically blowing a little time here as everybody gets signed in. Thank you, all of you. I love seeing your names there. And we've got Debbie Clarkin coming in from Canada. We've got, let's see, who else have we got? We even have some men on here tonight. Oh, my goodness. Linda McWhorter's on again. Maria's on. She's always here. Sonia, thank you, Sonia. I know you had a hard day today, so I really appreciate your being here. Rosemary, great. I'm glad to see you made it. Yeah, I love it. All of you people, I'm so glad you could be here. If you've got questions, what you're going to do is you're going to type them into the chat box, and I will try and remember to ask them. If I don't, it means I forgot to go and look at them. It doesn't mean that Nicki and Normandi didn't answer them. So we'll, you know, if you click on that chat button up there, that will allow you to put in a message, and you can, and I'll get it. If it's a personal question, you can do that, and I will answer it directly to you. So I look forward to talking with you. And now I would like, I have to do one thing before I turn it over and start talking to Nicki and Normandi. I have to give props to my dear Raven, who I have drafted into being on these shows with me. I don't pay her, so I got to give her something. If any of you tarot readings, you've got to talk to Raven. Raven is the world's best. Normandi, you're second best, but Raven is the best. So,
wow. Hey, wait a minute.
Wait a minute. Love each other. Does shamanic readings. We'll get on to that.
No, historical, baby.
Oracle. So anyway, I want to thank you all for being here. And so we'll start with the question we always do. And we're going to start with Nicki and Normandi. Nicki, why don't you start by telling us what drew you onto the priestess path? Because there's some new people on here.
Well, maybe they're young. Well, if they're younger, they don't know the Grateful Dead either. But they took me to Egypt in 1978. I was married to one of the managers, and so I was privileged and got to go on that trip, and that was a pivotal moment in my life. And I'd experienced a lot of magic, but nothing quite like the kind of synchronicity and beauty that I experienced in Egypt, and it just felt like coming home. And so I climbed to the pyramid one morning before sunrise and met this woman at the top of the pyramid, and she and I decided to become immediate best friends and go home and collect money, and we were back 3 weeks later and 3 more times in the next year. And then I realized, well, it was there I made my commitment to become a healer, which preceded my commitment to become a teacher and then a writer. I guess it was 10 years later that I started taking groups, and I guess I've led more than 60 groups now to Egypt, and it's home to me. In fact, Normandi and I are getting ready to go there again. We have a tour there in November. Unfortunately for you, but fortunately for us, it's sold out. But we're really excited to be going home again.
Yeah.
And we hope to have our book on all the, 17 years of Egyptian mysteries that we've taught together.
Right.
And our 5, will be 6 trips
now
to Egypt that we've taught together, all condensed into this book that we're writing right now, which is why we're here together.
Oh, I just thought you were hanging out.
We are. We have to be. I have to be flat on my back in order to type, and she has to be all stacked with pillows. And so we've been in bed together for a few weeks now, writing this book.
Yeah. Sounds like my kind of retreat. So, Normandi, since we do, as I said, we had new people on here who haven't experienced you before. If you'd tell us how you chose to come on the path of the priestess.
Well, I always tell people that it chose me. But I was, even as a little kid, I was like climbing into storm sewers and drawing on the darkened walls. There must have been some past life memory, I don't know. But as I grew older, I met a Rosicrucian man who insisted that I purchase a copy of Budge's Book of the Dead, which I did on the spot, as he insisted. And then he handed me all of his Rosicrucian teachings, and then he left. And I thought I was going to give them back to him, and then he died. And I thought, okay. So I was working on my master's in English literature, translating texts, and the professor said, well, what's your third language? I didn't have one, so hieroglyphs were in the book. I said, gee, that looks interesting, because, you know, I have this writing, painting kind of thing that's connected, so maybe I'll learn hieroglyphs. So I taught myself how to read and write hieroglyphs. And it took 10 years to translate the Book of the Dead 10 times, and so I was ready to throw it away. But the spirit of my friend appeared in the back seat of my car and stopped me from throwing it away. And then a couple of months later, I was asked if I had the manuscript ready to publish. So that a short version of how that book came about. The path has always been one, has always been fascinating to me. I mean, I fell in love with it when I was translating it. And it was like I was remembering it. it spoke to me.
But in addition to that, you have recently taken another path of the priestess in your studies in Chesterfield. Is not correct?
Yeah, that is right. That's another divergent path. I had a great aunt who was a spiritualist medium and heard many, many stories about her. And so she had studied at Camp Chesterfield and would go there every summer. And there were lots of hysterical stories about her. I thought, oh, she'd be good for a novel, because I also write fiction. So what do you do when you're writing a historical novel? You go research it. So I ended up in Chesterfield, and about 7 years later, I bought a house there. I live there. I work as one of the mediums there. The novel is still in progress, but it's almost complete now. So yeah, so that was the other sort of thing that happened. Not surprising after a ghost shows up in the back seat of your car to keep you from throwing the manuscript away that you'd end up in, working as a spiritualist.
Well, the reason I ask you is because I can remember a conversation with you about 10 years ago about channeling and mediumship, and you're like, oh, no, I don't want to do that.
No, I don't do that.
What do you do with that sort of stuff?
That was until we did our Egyptian Mysteries class, and you were here, the first Becoming an Oracle.
That's right. That's right. And I said, no, I don't do that kind of stuff. So then I turn around and go to Chesterfield and learn how to do it.
Yeah. Which comes under the heading of you can teach an old dog new tricks.
I guess so, yeah.
How dare you?
Well, we won't. I won't use the other term. So anyway, but basically, I know that both of you have got, well, sum total 89, 90 years of experience of working with the spiritual and working primarily as priestesses, whether you're working, I know Normandi worked in the academic world, but even there, I believe that much of her work would be coming under the heading of priestess. And of course, Raven and I still use her term, which she gave us many years ago, that she's an Episcopagan. And so a lot of the people who come to this show are really looking for advice about how they can develop themselves as a priestess, how they can follow that path in a congruent and honest way, that they're walking this path and they're walking it on a daily basis. So what I would like from you is, let's talk a little bit about some of the things you've met along the way, some of the problems, and some of the ways you solve those situations.
We don't have any problems. Problems?
Be quiet, or we'll talk about the refrigerator.
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out how to rephrase that. And the only way I know is to tell you a story. Okay. Which was, I was really blessed to be ordained as a priestess by Lady Olivia Robertson when she was at Isis Oasis back in the year 2000. Okay, I had been doing a lot of translating of the work at that time, but and writing a lot of books about the goddess, and people were quoting it, but I hadn't admitted that that's what I was doing until this moment where this happened. And so when she died, when Lady Olivia died, I had a dream about her that night, though I did not know that she had died. And she came to me in this dream and she said, "What will you do for the Temple of Isis now?" And I said, "Lady Olivia, whatever you ask." And she said, "You will build a temple for her." I was like, okay. So, where I am in Chesterfield, I have this nice, beautiful backyard. I'm pulling out trees and recommitting places where I might be able to create a spot for her to dwell there, And so, in answer to your question, anytime that, I have found myself going, what in the heck was I thinking when I ended up in Chesterfield? I rearranged my entire life. It's like, and I'll wake up suddenly and wonder, what city am I in? And I always go back to the dreams and to things that, Lady Olivia said to me, or that Isis directly, when I hear her voice and she says, this is what's going on, then I say, okay, because that to me has become more real than anything else that I do, is that paying attention to when the voice of Isis calls me.
So in listening to the voice of Isis, in listening to the voice of Lady Olivia, you have uprooted your life. You have moved from your beloved Kentucky. You have changed the way that you make your living. There's an old saying whenever you're dealing with alcoholics that all you have to do is change what you do, change all your friends, change what you do for a living, and where you hang out. Are you going to do the 12 steps of Isis?
Yeah, we're already there.
On the second draft.
Yeah, okay. So, Nicki, I know that, along the way you've had some adventures. I've had some of those adventures with you. And you
sent me on a few.
I've sent you on a few. That's true. And so, but as you've walked this path, and you've got this wonderful temple there in Eugene, Oregon, and if you haven't been to see her temple, you got to go see it. It's really cool. And sometimes it looks like just a garden, and sometimes it looks like a temple. But when you began to walk the path, and when you were called to move to Eugene, did you know what you were going to be doing? Or was this a complete surprise to you?
It was an absolute complete surprise. The idea of a temple first occurred to me. You were probably there in Egypt. There was a woman, I'm sorry, I can't remember her name. She did angel readings. And I wasn't really into angels, but I was, trying to be polite. And so when she offered me a reading, I accepted. And she proceeded to tell me that every time I did a piece of work, whether it was at a temple or a trip to Egypt or a class or a phone bridge, I was building a pillar or a chapel or a wall or some part of an etheric moon temple. And it was, I'd say maybe 3 months later, 3 or 4 months later, that, or maybe 2 or 3 months later, that we met to do the Egyptian mysteries, and we didn't know. And that's when we got the instructions on how to consecrate the temple, and which is what we're now writing about. But it was a total surprise. That was the only clue or forewarning that I had, was that that's what I'd been doing for all these years. And it was suddenly time to priestess that temple, to actually acknowledge its presence, acknowledge the Neteru and the family of the gods that are honored here. And so in the Fellowship of Isis, it's called the Lyceum of Shamanic Egypt.
And what a long, strange trip it's been.
It really has.
To quote a friend.
So during this long, strange trip, you say you were told, you received this information. Did it come by email?
A lot of times. Deb's real good at that. Generally, it comes from you or Deb or Mark or certainly in this partnership, Normandi, and more since the writing of the Shamanic Mysteries of Egypt and the Anubis Oracle. There's more and more direct communication. When I'm doing readings, it's really easy. But I like the blindness. It's like the justice is blind, Ma'at is blind, and it has afforded me the opportunity to not only teach hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people how to see, but to be informed by them in a trustworthy way.
Yeah, I think it's important sometimes not to know where you're going, but to just follow the lead that's right in front of you. You know, and I think that that's what we do with the book, and oftentimes that's what we do with the workshops that we're putting together. I mean, I've told people that I come to Nicki's house a couple of days before the retreat,
because
and
we don't have a clue.
We don't have a clue, and what'll happen is that I'll have some like really weird off-the-wall dream.
And that's our starting point.
And that's where we start.
Or Mark will have some strange vision of Isis squatting,
right,
and birthing the world into existence.
Yeah, I have one grandchild and 2 great-grandchildren from that one. It's all his fault.
Got that there.
I was there. You're absolutely glorious children. But, you know, I do want to go back because, you know, Nicki, I've known you long enough to know that there was a time when you truly were blind as far as being able to see. And I know that I've been asked this by some of these people that have asked questions. They go, well, you know, how did she manage to see all this if she was blind? And, you know, I'm not, it's...
I changed all my friends. Picked my favorite students, the ones that were the clearest, and made friends with them.
Well, one of the things that I know that you did, and maybe it wasn't, as you said, you made friends with your students, but you were wonderfully generous with allowing people to be part of your training, whether they were somebody who had just showed up at the door or someone who had been there for years, and you were willing for them to be to bring you information and knowledge and wisdom, and to have that be incorporated into the training. In fact, Raven, I'd love for you to tell the story of the pink light. So, but that was something that, you know, when we first started, you were pretty dependent on others. And as we've gone along, you have become more and more of a visionary yourself. Normandi, I believe, has always been a visionary. It's just, she just decided that she was going to talk to dead people.
We've had a great time because we can end each other's sentences. We can
be writing on the same paragraph. I'm at the top, she's at the bottom,
and we meet in the middle.
And we meet in the middle, and it flows seamlessly.
Yeah. So one of the things that we talk about in this show a lot is about basically how to be in relationship. How to be in relationship with our sisters, how to be in relationship with other priestesses, how to be in relationship. So that's part of the reason having both of you on. I'd like you to comment on that.
But I'm hearing the line of a poem by, I think it's Starhawk, that goes, walk carefully, well-loved one, walk mindfully, well-loved one, walk fearlessly, well-loved one.
Fearlessly is the operative word here.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's interesting because I've been here 3 weeks, you know, and we're getting to this, like, we see each other's green stuff in our teeth. I'll just put it that way, you know, and yet you still love
so much going on, and we're on such a deadline that it can get stressful.
Yeah.
But we're we're getting it done. It's amazing what we're doing. We are so excited about it.
But the first thing every morning is we check in with Thoth and Isis and say, where are we? How are we doing? I mean, I think that's
the key. Is to realize that the relationship isn't just us. It's us and the Neteru who are guiding us through this process, because we are in service to Ma'at. The temples are in service to Ma'at. Our lives are in service to Ma'at. And so,
yeah, if we think it's about us, we're lost.
Yeah, that we really blow it in a hurry. And that's the only time we ever, when we get frustrated because life happens, because I'm going to have to get off the phone and go empty my refrigerator and my freezer and start over again. It'll be too late to buy a new one tonight.
So, as I mentioned earlier, I did want Raven to come in. And Raven, would you mind telling the story of the pink light and how you first came to be part of the circle of sisters here?
The Thoth fairies?
Thoth fairies.
Well, I had been on Nicki's newsletter from a mutual friend back in the days when her newsletter was sent in the mail. And I would read this about her going to Egypt and all these people going, and I'd think, who are these people? Don't they have jobs? Who can afford this? And I can't afford this, and this is crazy. And I actually wrote to Nicki and said, please take me off your mail list.
I didn't know that.
Because this has nothing to do with me. Save the paper.
26 pages. 24 pages.
I kept circling us around. So there was a time that you were giving a workshop in Eugene when I was living in Seattle, and I was going to go down. I thought, oh, I think I might go down and take that workshop from her. And then I decided, oh, I can't do it, all these reasons. And so that weekend, I had a small wreck in my car. And I thought, and it was at my own home. And I thought, now that's just stupid. I should have gone to Eugene. This body work is costing me now almost the exact amount I figured it was going to cost me to go down to Eugene. So I said, if she ever's in Seattle again, take on her class. And that was the Sekhmet in the Belly of the Goddess class in Port Townsend, whatever year that was.
Good one.
That was a great class.
We're in the belly of the...
Yeah, what was that, 90, something like that? When was that, Gloria?
97, 98.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
I had just come back from getting it in Switzerland.
Yeah, okay. So I didn't know anything about Egyptian gods. I didn't know anything about journeying. I didn't know anything about seeing. And I was like, okay, we'll see what happens. I'll just try and figure it out. So you're leading us through this meditation to go to Karnak and see Sekhmet. And none of that happened. And all of a sudden, this giant, huge, what I thought was a stork, showed up, picked me up in his beak, and said, "You're mine." And I just hung there thinking, I have no idea what just happened. I must be crazy. Okay, so after it's all done, everybody in the circle is talking about what they saw with Sekhmet and Egypt, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm really lost it. And you asked me what happened, and I said, this big stork came and picked me up. And you leaned forward and you said, was it a stork or an ibis? And I said, well, I don't know. What's the difference? And it was Thoth.
I said, he had a round, curved beak.
Yeah, and he was holding me in his beak like a stork would hold the baby going to be delivered. And so that was it. And so I started going down to Eugene for your classes with Gloria and some other women in Seattle. I had my van, and it was the official car of the Egyptian Mysteries, and we would load up on Friday and drive down to Eugene, and we'd be in all this altered state and coming back late Sunday night, and Gloria would talk me through while I drove, because it's like I don't even know what planet I'm on anymore. In one of these workshops, Gloria told me that my father, who had died, wanted to talk to me and couldn't get through to me and wanted to give me something. And I never had a good relationship with my dad. And it had been interesting because I had been trying to get into a better relationship with him and had used this great big sword that was his father's with the Knights Templar stuff all over it. And I had called my grandfather up and basically I called him out and said, you need to repair this problem in the family. Well, my dad gets a hold of Gloria and wants to give me this pink light. And I know that sounds very woo-woo, but I said, well, all right. And so I put out my hands, and this light comes down. I can see it, and it goes all through me, like gloves, up my arms. It went through my whole body. And it's like, what is this? And so we came back to class, and I told you about it, and you said, well, you're going to get up and give it to all of us. I said, what do you mean? And you said, that's a transmission. And now you're going to give that transmission to everybody.
And I want it.
And this is a class full of people who are looking at me like, isn't this the chick that goes outside and cries because she can't see anything? Yes, that's me. But I did it. And that's what Gloria's talking about, is this generosity, because that allowed me to step up and learn something. And Nicki, she's like, okay, cool, that's what we're doing now. No ego on Nicki's side, no agenda. This is coming through, fine, that's what we're doing now.
Right.
That's what we did.
So the reason I partly wanted to have that is because some of the people that are watching this show may not know who you are, may not know who the hell you're talking about whenever you say Thoth and Ma'at and Isis and all those. They're going to have to go look them up afterwards. And, you know, because they have a relationship with someone else, or they may even have a relationship with, you know, a different religion. And when you walk into this, sometimes it seems a little strange. Sometimes it seems that, you know, you've walked into, as one of my friends referred to it, a cult. Oh, my God. I said, no, I've been in a cult. It's not one. But whenever people listen to this, I want them to know that this is something about generosity and love and understanding and fellowship and being together in a way that empowers everyone in the group. And that's what we're here about, is the idea that we can support. I mean, a gathering of priestesses is the idea that all of us can help lift everybody up, that by being who we really are, we're giving that gift to the world. And I believe that you two have given that gift in spades, if you want to use that phrase, over the years. And, you know, I'd like you to talk a little bit about what it has given you. Yeah, I know. This is not like any interview you've ever done before.
It's given me this incredible magical life. I mean, I've lived on the edge of magic probably all my life, but consciously since I first took LSD in 1964. And but it was a lot harder when I didn't have any direction, when I didn't know what I was doing. And now I know what I'm doing. I'm a healer in service to Ma'at, who represents the balance, the truth, and the harmony, and what all Egyptians know from the time they're born, that that's what they're here to serve. And that because the world is in such turmoil and is so out of balance, then I'm here to serve Sekhmet, because she is the guardian of Ma'at. And when Ma'at gets when the world is out of balance and out of Ma'at, then we have to step in as priestesses of Sekhmet and help to bring that balance back, whatever it takes. I mean, that's the destructive part of Sekhmet, and also the healing part. And I choose to be on the healing side. And as for the true guiding light in my life, it's Thoth and Anubis. And Thoth pretty much comes as Thoth, whoever he comes through. And I feel really blessed to have my own personal Anubis as my husband, who really keeps me in check. And, you know, that's not always an easy job.
Yeah. She slips her leash on a regular basis. So, so Normandi, what has this life, this path given you? What is the reward you have received for following this passion, this openings that have been available to you?
Well, I may wake up in the morning and wonder where city I'm in, but I never wake up wondering what I'm supposed to do next. Because what I'm supposed to do next is to get up, go downstairs, light a candle and some incense, and sit in front of my altar and say, I'm yours. Do with me what you wish. And then we just go from there during the day. You know, that she will give me what I need to take care of, what's right in front of me. I can't do a million things, but I can serve her, you know, talk with people who need her kind of healing wings around them in any given time. I think translating the Book of the Dead gave me a true understanding of how to transform my life from the negative stuff that you worry about on an everyday basis and turn it into something that was much more beautiful and much more soul enriching, and that I was able to live inside a process, a magical process for my whole life. That's pretty sweet. I really like it. It doesn't always go according to my plan, but it always goes according to a plan. So
as we sit here, you're in the process of creating a new book, which will be, I presume, available in spring of 2015 or fall?
Fall.
Fall 2015. You're about to leave for Egypt. You've got another book. Nicki, I know, has another book coming. I know Normandi always has more books coming. I know that you know what to do today, but where do you see yourself going in the next 10 years or in the next 5?
I haven't a clue.
Well,
I mean, I have not attempted to. I am content as long as Mark's okay and, you know, home is stable and we're together, and everything beyond that is gravy. That's pretty much it. And I get a lot of rich gravy. I'm surprised I don't have gout.
Skinny Minnie.
What?
I said skinny Minnie.
yeah.
Yeah, I hardly have time to cook anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping for more time to cook.
Yeah. So the reason I ask that is because both of you, in a way, are, I wouldn't say at the height of your careers, but you are at a point in your careers where you can look back and see where you have come from. And as we know, you know, where we've come from in many ways presages where we're going to be going. And I think that, you know, for the younger ones, the ones that are just starting on the priestess path, I think allowing them to see that, you know, even after you've been there for a long time, it's it's something that you can continue to walk. I mean, I know that Lady Olivia continued walking the path until she was, what, 92?
94, I think.
94. Yeah, and Lorraine down at Isis Oasis.
Lorian, yeah.
Lorian, who just passed away. And so all of these things, I mean, it's like, as we look at the idea of being a priestess, I mean, since we don't have a codified idea of what that is, you know, it's not in a nunnery, it's not in a temple somewhere where there's a high priestess that tells us what to do or shows us as an example. You are our examples. You know, you are the ones we're following behind. At least I am. So.
Yeah, well, you know, it's not all smells and bells, you know, and I think you have to be willing to let what you do as a priestess evolve over time, you know. I mean, now that I've been doing this thing in the spiritualist community, I'm finding that all of the stuff I did with the Book of the Dead and work as a priestess of Isis, and I find myself contemplating these days how I'm going to manage the transitions of people that I would like to serve now. Because I'm finding myself more and more thinking that, you know, holding the hand of someone while they die, as Mother Teresa did, is probably one of the best things that you can do with your life. And I may end up doing that.
And we're coming into a time and an age where that's happening more and more around us. And yeah. That, interestingly enough, given the choice, that's probably not a road that I would choose, but it's certainly a road that I've been prepared for if I'm, you know, if that's what's presented to me. You know, I would like to do more one-on-one trainings and readings and empowerments. I like to just get on Skype with people and teach what I need to learn from them.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. Well, as anyone who's on my mailing list knows, I've been going through some turmoil lately because my husband's in the process of his transition, and it's taking him a while to transition. You know, I got to admit, some days I just kind of want to go, well, why didn't he just go ahead and die? I mean, you know, we're dealing with it. And then on days whenever I have to get on the phone with Medicare for an hour and a half to be on hold, you know, it's not a thrilling thing to deal with. But it is part of my path. It's part of where I'm walking now, and it is part of being a priestess. And one of the things that I've become very aware of is that I'm a priestess, and it doesn't matter if I'm in a church or if I'm in Walmart.
I'll tell you something.
Exactly.
I was glimpsing, I don't have much time to watch TV, but I try before I go to sleep to catch a little bit of what's going on so that I know what's happening in the world. And this Ebola thing, I was watching these videos of these guys who are volunteering at these clinics that are popping up over there to dig the graves. And I realized those are priests. Those people that are helping in that situation are priests and priestesses. They don't call it that, they don't know it that, but they are serving in as ministerial a way as I could have ever imagined when I was ordained. You know, and so I think one of the things that I would want to impart to people who are listening is you don't have to be a trained priestess to be a priestess. You simply have to say yes to the calling of what's needed to help others that's right in front of you. And those men that were digging those graves, they all counted how many people they lost to the epidemic,
Mm-hmm.
and who they were to them. Mm-hmm. And this is their give back. It was
Right.
it was quite something, and I think it's quite relevant to this discussion, because I certainly don't think they were expecting that in their lives.
Yeah.
But they were doing it with such humility and such grace and such generosity.
I remember a long time ago we had a conversation about being a shaman. And you said, I'm not a shaman. I'm just available.
No, I said that.
No, Nicki said it first.
Okay.
So, but
Sorry, Nicki.
We're very similar, you and I.
yeah. This was back in the 80s, and she was very clear that, you know, she didn't necessarily, this wasn't necessarily what she planned. This was not necessarily what she had in mind. And that she got involved with all this stuff, and even when she was teaching, it was not necessarily what she had in mind. That she thought she was going to go down a different path, and her mother still thought she was going to go down a different path. Never happened. Never did find that good Jewish boy. So as we're, you know, walking this path, and you know, we've got the King Fire up in Northern California right now that's burned thousands and thousands of acres and millions of trees and many, many houses, and we've got the Ebola virus, and we've got the Syrian, the ISIS, anti-ISIS in Syria that are running 100,000 people out of their homes and torching their homes. And we've got all of these things which are part of our world. They are part of who we are at this point in time. As we speak and as we step forward, I think that it's one of the things that I remember, and I think Normandi was the one that talked about this, that is being true with our word, and that our word is what provides us with the opportunity. I'd love you to talk, Normandi, a little bit about the word and about how the word comes to us, because it is through the hieroglyphics and through the investment of the word that we have become who we are.
Wow. That's a long subject, because we've been writing about that in the book over a lot.
See, I got it.
Yeah. And I think that one of the most important things for us to remember is that it's not just what we speak, but it's what we think that even creates the reality that we live in. Obviously, as you're writing it, you are trying to give your tactile, physical experience with as much detail as you can to someone else, because in truth the natural world is filled with God. You know, God is in all things, and so we use that to create a picture and a reality for someone. But even thinking, you know, if we cannot find ourselves thinking in ways that are productive or ways that are truth or clear, you know, if we're filling our heads with, and I don't even own a television anymore because there's too much negativity on it, you know, and it's like I don't want to put that in my heart before I go to bed at night. I just don't want that, you know. I want my heart to be full of light and joy and love, and I don't believe that's Pollyanna. I believe that that's, you know, what you put in to make what comes out more beautiful. And it's that idea of Heka, you know, the power in the language of the word. It's the right word, the right sentence, the right invocation, the right intention that is what makes the phrase that you're speaking magic, you know. And if you know how to use that word of power, those words of power, whether you're writing poetry or you're creating invocations, you're living a true life, you know. And the ancient Egyptians thought that ability of Heka was to them the nuclear energy of the ancient world, that was what created the life they lived. And it's because people were so connected to their language that everything was remembered. Everything was held dear. I don't know if that's what you wanted me to say, but
yeah, it was the idea of Heka, but I wanted you to introduce it. So,
all right. Okay.
Don't want to steal your thunder. But it is the idea that, you know, in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was made manifest, and we are still making manifest the Word. So, speaking our truth. And also speaking the truth, which is not necessarily the same thing, is a place where if we can bring the truth and our truth into closer congruence, so that when we speak with the heart of a priestess, with the heart of a priest. When we speak from a place of love, where we speak with a place of generosity and giving, where we speak in such a way that we don't live in a world of competition, but we work in a world of cooperation. Those are all things that I believe that are part of creating this new world that we are in the process of creating. It's a world that is far greater than any one of us, because it is all of us. And, you know, I would like, you know, if you have comments on that, I'd love to hear it. I think Nicki does have.
Well, I found myself thinking about when Normandi was talking about going to sleep and wanting to have her heart filled in that way, and thinking about that in relationship to my wanting to know what's going on, and that's usually the only time I get a chance to look and see, and I usually try and get it from Colbert or Jon Stewart because there's some humor with it, but I'll take it how I get it. And I was thinking about why I do that and what I do with it, and I think that it gives some direction for me in my night work. I'm told by a lot of people that I show up in their dreams, that I show up and do work at night, and I think that when I see something that touches me so deeply, like what's going on in Africa, that then that allows me in dream time to go and do work that I can't do otherwise. And although I'm not conscious of it, I do believe that actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right.
And Normandi, what do you have to say? You have...
Well, yeah, what she said, that's good. I think we
Luckily, it's recorded, so you can go back and write it.
Sure. I think doing work in the dream time is one of the things that I'm most interested in doing these days. And I believe Nicki's choice of using that material to catapult her into places where she needs to show up is really good, because she doesn't just take it in idly. It's not that she's falling asleep while it's on and it's filling her head with dross. It's like she's taking it in here, you know, into her heart, and it's being transformed while she's asleep. And I think that that's a very good way and a very decent way to do that. I was thinking also about this radio show that we were on the other night. I'll have to get Nicki to tell you about it, but part of the conversation was, you know, oh, the world's going to, you know, HELL in a handbasket, you know, and so why are you even trying to do the stuff that you're doing? And so, well,
we were sort of shocked to hear that.
We were very shocked to hear that, and it was like, well, you know, we are trying to make a difference, you know. And he said, well, he was saying it was
very
airy.
antagonistic, and he
so
was.
So let Nicki tell you what happened.
I said, when I was invited to this show, you said the theme was shamanism. And you're asking me all these questions and explain things, but that's not. Shamanism is an experience. So if you want to know about shamanism, you would have to let me take you on a journey so that you can have an actual experience. And he freaked out pretty heavily in the break in between and was saying, this is, my show and we're not going to do that. And I'm an ex-cop, and he went through this whole thing. I'm just testing you and all this. And so when we were back on air,
and Nicki said, "Well, either you're gonna let me do it or not. Do you want to know what it is or not?" So he said, "I'll think about it." Yeah.
And so in the next segment, I challenged him, and he took me up on it, and he had his mind blown. By the end of the show, he was raving. In fact, he sent me an email today that said his hands finally cooled down. Thank you. And is really looking forward to having us on again, because we were the most interesting people he remembered having on his show. But and on air afterwards, after the thing that we did, the heart breath and the opening of the hands, he said that he had been testing us to see if we would go off in some weird, as you said, airy-fairy kind of place, or whether we had something real to offer. And he decided to gamble on the yes, and he was really glad he did.
It was interesting, yeah. Very good.
Yeah, so it's just, as I... And by the way, anybody who has to leave at 7 o'clock at the top of the hour, we forgive you and we release you, and it is recorded, so you can come back and watch the rest of it later. But we're going to continue right now, and Nicki's refrigerator is going to wait for us, so she can tell you about that. But I think that one of the things that we have is we have this opportunity to look deeply into what shamanism is and what it means in the world today. And I'm not going to ask, I know that is a 4-hour conversation at a minimum, but since you've introduced it, and what would you define shamanism as today?
Who are you asking?
Either one of you.
I think it's the same thing that it's been for thousands of years. I think it's a person traveling between the worlds to bring back information, power, and healing for their community. And one is often born into it, one is initiated into it, one has spontaneous experiences that are rites of passage. And in some cultures, people are trained. In the culture that the word shaman came from, which is the Tungus people of Siberia, you go crazy, and that's your calling. And if you don't respond, you will go mad.
I like that. There's a line, I cannot remember who said it, but it is something like, without a vision, the people perish.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the truest thing that can be said. And all, there have been so many shamans and dreamers and people who have traversed this world by whatever name, technicians of the sacred. That,
wounded healers.
Yeah, in every culture, it's there. It's part and parcel of being in the world and coming to an understanding that there's something beyond what you're seeing in your in your hands and touching on the desk. It's being able to look into the myths and perceive that there's a purpose for everything, and to bring back that purpose for other people and yourself and your community.
Yeah, and I do, though, want to say that not everyone who says they're a shaman is a shaman. There are false shamans out there. So how does somebody
There's a lot of false everything out there these days. That's why we're so out of balance. We have, Ma'at is largely disregarded in this culture and around the world. And that's where we are. And we will pay the consequences. How that's going to happen, we've yet to find out, but it will happen because that's the law of nature and the law of Ma'at.
As someone said this last weekend in the protest, there is no planet B. So,
Correct. That's good.
So, as we're coming into the end of this show, I do want to talk a little bit about, what you're actually doing in the next few months. I know that you both have events coming up, and I want you to have an opportunity to talk about them. You have the Egypt trip, which is full, but then I believe you have another trip that's coming up, Nicki, in spring of 2015.
No.
Not going to Alaska.
I'm writing in 2015. Next November 2015, and it's 2015, and it's already half full. And then November will be, that's in November, and
December.
Normandi will be doing one in December.
Okay.
Following.
You will also be doing a cruise.
Yes. Oh yes.
To Alaska.
Oh, that's right. Oh yes, everybody.
How could you forget that?
I'm going to Alaska for my 72nd birthday, and I'm doing the Inland Passage, and it's a cruise full of shaman, and I am so excited to get to do that, and I hope you'll join me on that, because I'd forgotten. I mean, that I'm so entrenched in what I'm doing that yeah, please come so I can go. I'm really excited about it. It's been on my bucket list, right up there with rafting the Grand Canyon, and I've given up on that, but I'm not going to give up on the cruise to Alaska. And here we have this opportunity and these great teachers. Denise Lynn, an old friend of mine, is going to come, and it'll be a pretty interesting journey.
Okay, so other than the trip to Alaska, which is what I was trying to get out of you.
Thank you. Private sessions, lots of private sessions.
How can they get in touch with you if they'd like to have a private session, or if they would like to learn more? And you can also tell them where they can buy books.
Okay. So my website is shamanicjourneys.com or nickiscully.com, and Normandi's is normandiellis.com. My web store, which you can reach from Shamanic Journeys, is called hathorsmirror.com, and that has your book with Normandi and most of Normandi's books, all of her books on Egypt, and
except the poetry.
Except the poetry, yeah. But this new poetry book, Words on Water, oh my God, it is so beautiful. So I'll soon be carrying it. If not, Normandi will tell you how to get it. And I'm cutting office hours down to Monday through Thursday, 9:30 until 2:30, and as soon as Normandi leaves, I'll be open to doing sessions again for until I leave for Egypt on the 26th of October.
So that's about 26 days. So you're going to be, she's leaving September 30th, October 1st. So anyone who would like to schedule a session, it would be a good thing for them to get in touch with Nicki now, because she has very limited time, and it is difficult to schedule time with her, and even when you know her secret cell phone number. So
can I give my office number? Should I go ahead and give my office? 541-484-1099 Pacific time.
Yes, do not call at 6:30 in the morning. She will be very unhappy with you. And Normandi, if we would like to have a session with you, do we have to come to Chesterfield?
No, I do phone sessions too. And when I'm in Chesterfield in October, I'm going to be teaching the Egyptian Book of the Dead. I'm going to be teaching Sacred Calendar and Candle Ceremony. I also do private sessions, Akashic Record readings, and clairvoyant messages, clairvoyant circles. So if you would like me to come to your home and have people together, I do those.
She lives in Indiana.
I live in Indiana, by the way, yeah. So if you're in Indiana and want to do a circle, that's great. If you just want a consultation on the phone, I can do that too. So we'll make arrangements for the time.
Okay, so both of you are available different times. However, they're both now. Nicki, you're going to be in Egypt for 6 weeks.
Well, I'm going to be in New York for the first week.
Oh, okay.
With my daughter and her husband and my grandchild, on my way to Egypt, and then I'll be in Egypt for a month.
A month, okay. So be back in December, and Normandi will be back as well. So I do really recommend that you set up a session with these two women.
Thank you, Gloria.
I cannot possibly tell you what I have learned from them in anything under a month-long series of classes. I have studied in depth with both of them, and I have in effect lived with them for many, many years, and I have never ever had a feeling at any point that there was anything false here. And it's that, just that by itself would make me say, these are two women I can heartily recommend for you. But beyond that, they are so incredibly fucking and brilliant. And
I thought she was going to say fun. I guess she did.
And, you know, if you have a book that you're writing, Normandi Ellis is the world's best writing teacher. I have seen her get poetry out of someone who swore that they couldn't string words together in a sentence. And Nicki is, without a doubt, one of the best shamanic teachers on the planet at this time. She has a capability of having people see in a way that they didn't know existed within a very short period of time, as the story she told you earlier of the gentleman who was resistant and wasn't even sure he wanted to have that on his radio show. You know, these are masters. I mean, and I use that term advisedly. These are masters. These are masters walking on this planet. And this is your opportunity to actually study with them. So use it. Nicki's not going to do much more in the way of classes. She's already said that. Normandi, well, maybe we can talk her into doing some more, but there's a wealth of information they've already done, and I want you to know that we support that and that we are heartily behind them. And you know, I can't give you a better endorsement than that, than just say
I couldn't imagine one. Thank you.
So I would like you to, I'm going to wrap this up tonight and say thank you all for being on a gathering of priestesses. We are, here every Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock Pacific time, and it would be really nice if I knew who was going to be on next week, but let me check real quick. I apologize. I meant to check this before earlier. And, we are basically here for you. This is not so much about my learning. This is more about your learning, and I want to give you a space for that. And by the way, I apologize, Ione. It is you. Reverend Ione is going to be on next week, and she is fabulous too. Incredible, beautiful, wonderful woman. And so we will have her on this next week, and we will undoubtedly go to new heights and new depths and new breadth as we fly with her. The opportunity for you is to expand your wings and fly, every one of you, and I want to support you in that. I truly believe that the priestesses that are present, the priestesses that are hearing this, the ones that are holding this together, are the ones that we are the ones that are going to heal the world. So as you feel the called, whether it's for taking care of children in Indiana, or whether it's going to Africa and taking care of the children with Ebola, or whatever it is that you feel called to do, I want to support you in that. And I want you to support you in the idea that walking as a priestess is the highest calling that you can ever have. And I want to thank you, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Glory.
Thank you, Gloria. Thank you, Raven.
Thank you,
Love
Raven.
you. Love you, love you, love you.